I never thought I'd be the guy who notices the little things. The way her perfume lingered on the couch cushions just a shade too long, or how her phone screen flickered with notifications she'd swipe away before I could catch a glimpse. My wife, Elena, was a masterpiece, long legs that could stop traffic, dark hair that cascaded like silk, and eyes that promised secrets I'd never unravel. 12 years of marriage, and I still felt the jolt every time she walked into the room. But lately, something was off, like a melody you know by heart suddenly hitting a sour note. It started with the late nights. She'd come home from her marketing job, heels clicking against the hardwood, her blouse slightly untucked, her lips flushed like she'd been sipping wine I hadn't poured. Client dinners, she'd say, tossing her bag on the counter with a tired smile. I believed her because I wanted to, because doubting her felt like doubting the sun would rise. But then there was the gym bag. She'd never been a fitness nut. Hell, she'd tease me for my morning runs, but suddenly she was working out 3 times a week. No sweat on her brow when she got back. Just that same faint scent of something expensive, something not ours. I'm not proud of it, but I checked her phone one night. She was in the shower, the steam curling out from under the bathroom door, and I grabbed it from her purse. Passcode still the same, our anniversary. Her texts were clean, too clean, like she'd scrubbed them down to the bones. But there was one thread, a contact saved as Tara, Jim, that stopped me cold. Can't wait to feel you again, it read. Sent 2 nights ago. My stomach twisted, but I put the phone back before she stepped out, wrapped in a towel, humming like nothing was wrong. The next day, I followed her. I called in sick, parked my car 2 blocks from the gym, and watched her pull up in her sleek black Audi. She didn't go inside. Instead, she waited, leaning against the hood, her tight leggings hugging every curve. A guy pulled up, tall, broad-shouldered, with a jawline that looked carved from stone. He didn't hesitate, grabbed her waist, pulled her close, and kissed her like he owned her. My Elena, my wife. Right there in the parking lot, her hands sliding up his chest, her body pressing into his like she'd forgotten I existed. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I drove home, hands shaking on the wheel, and poured a whiskey. The burn didn't dull the ache. That night, she came home late again, her cheeks flushed, her voice soft as she slid into bed beside me. Missed you today, she murmured, her fingers brushing my arm. I wanted to scream, to flip the mattress and demand answers, but I didn't. I turned to her, pulled her close, and kissed her harder than I had in years. She gasped, surprised, then melted into it, her nails digging into my back. It was desperate, messy, like I could reclaim her if I just held on tight enough. But in the dark, all I could see was him. The next week, I dug deeper. Hired a PI, some grizzled ex-cop named Ray who smelled like cigars and regret. He tailed her, snapped photos, dug into this guy's life. His name was Marcus. Owned a chain of upscale bars, mid-30s, single, the kind of guy who wore tailored suits and smirked like the world owed him. Ray's report was clinical, detached, hotel receipts, late-night meetups, a pattern of Elena slipping away from me. But one detail gutted me. A text Ray intercepted from Marcus to her. Tell him yet? Tell me what? That night, she cooked dinner, rare for her lately, lamb with rosemary, my favorite. She wore this red dress, low-cut, clinging to her like a second skin. You've been quiet, she said, pouring wine, her eyes searching mine. I forced a smile, said work was rough. She leaned across the table, her hand on mine, and for a second, I almost forgot. Almost. Then her phone buzzed, and she glanced at it. Just a flicker, but I saw the name. Tara. Marcus. My grip tightened on the glass. Later, in bed, she was bolder than usual. Pushed me down, straddled me, her hair falling over her face as she moved. It was raw, electric, her breath hot against my neck. I should have enjoyed it, but all I could think was, is this how she is with him? After, she curled against me, asleep, peaceful, while I stared at the ceiling, plotting. I wasn't going to lose her. Not like this. Not to him. But I needed to know the game she was playing. The next morning, I found a key in her purse, small, silver, not one of ours. It wasn't his place, Ray had checked. It was something else. Something bigger. And when she left for work, I followed her again. Not to the gym this time. To a storage unit on the edge of town. She didn't see me. I parked far enough back, watched her unlock it, step inside. 10 minutes later, she came out, her face pale, clutching a black duffel bag. She drove off, and I waited. Broken with a crowbar, stupid, reckless, but I had to know. Inside, stacks of cash, a gun, and a folder with photos. Photos of me. At work. At home. With her. Dated weeks back. My wife wasn't just cheating. She was hiding something that could bury us both. The storage unit smelled like rust and secrets. I stood there, the crowbar still in my hand, staring at the folder with my face plastered across it. My pulse hammered in my ears. Elena, my Elena, had been watching me. Or someone had. The photos were grainy, some taken from a distance, others close enough to catch the lines on my face as I laughed with her over coffee. Dates scrawled in pen on the corners went back months. Before the gym bag. Before Marcus. What the hell was she into? I stuffed the folder under my jacket, grabbed the gun, cold, heavier than I expected, and left the cache. My hand shook as I locked the unit back up, the key burning a hole in my pocket. I drove home, mind racing. Was she setting me up? Blackmailing me? Or was I just collateral in whatever game she was playing with him? That night, she came home late again, her hair slightly mussed, her lips glossy. She kissed me on the cheek, casual, like nothing had changed. Long day, she sighed, kicking off her heels. I nodded, poured her wine, watched her sip it while my stomach churned. I didn't sleep. Couldn't. The gun was hidden under the floorboards in my office, the folder locked in my desk. At 3 a.m., I cracked it open again. More than just photos this time. Bank statements, hers, mine, joint accounts, circled transactions I didn't recognize. Thousands moving in and out, wired to names I'd never heard of. And then, a single page, typed, no signature. Phase 1 complete. Target unaware. Proceed to extraction. Target. Me? Extraction from what? The next day, I called Ray. Met him at a dive bar, the kind where the lights flicker and nobody asks questions. He slid into the booth, his trench coat damp from the rain, and I handed him the folder. Jesus, he muttered, flipping through it. This ain't just an affair, man. This is organized. Deep. He tapped the bank statements. These accounts offshore, untraceable. She's moving money for someone. Or something. I asked about Marcus. Ray leaned back, lit a cigar. He's clean on paper. Too clean. My gut says he's a front. You need to get ahead of this. That night, I played it cool. Elena was in the shower, singing some pop song, oblivious. I slipped into her purse again, found her phone. Tara, Jim, had a new message. He's asking questions. Speed it up. My blood ran cold. She was talking about me. To him. I put it back, waited for her to come out, towel around her, skin glistening. She smiled, climbed into bed, pressed herself against me. You're tense, she whispered, her hand sliding down my chest. I grabbed her wrist, harder than I meant to. Her eyes widened, but she didn't pull away. Work stress, I lied, forcing a grin. She bought it, or pretended to, and we fell into each other again. It was rough, primal, her moans echoing in the dark. But all I could think was, who are you? The next morning, I tailed her again. She didn't go to work. Didn't go to Marcus. She drove to a high-rise downtown, valet parking her Audi like she owned the place. I watched from across the street as she disappeared into the lobby, that black duffel bag slung over her shoulder. 30 minutes later, she came out, bag gone, her stride confident. I followed her to a cafe where she met him, Marcus, over espresso. They didn't touch, didn't kiss, just talked, heads close. I snapped a photo with my phone, sent it to Ray. His reply came fast. Buildings owned by a shell corp. No public records. Be careful. That night, she was different. Distant. She cooked again steak. Rare. The way I liked it. But barely ate. Kept glancing at her phone. I pushed her. Something wrong. She hesitated, then smiled too bright. Just tired. I didn't buy it. After dinner, she said she had to run an errand. Left in that red dress again, the one that made my chest ache. I followed. She didn't go to Marcus. She went back to the storage unit. I parked, crept closer, heart pounding. She was inside, rustling through something. Then I heard it, a second voice. Low, male, not Marcus. He's getting close, the voice said. We need to move now. Elena's reply was sharp. He's not ready. Give me time. I backed off, slipped into the shadows as she emerged, alone, the duffel bag back in her hands. She drove off, and I broke in again. The cash was gone. The gun was gone. But there was something new, a laptop, sleek, powered on. I opened it. Password protected. I tried our anniversary. Nothing. Her birthday. Nothing. Then, on a whim, Marcus. It unlocked. Emails. Dozens of them. Coded language, the package, the mark, delivery. But one stood out. Sent yesterday. He's expendable once we're clear. Make it clean. My face stared back at me from a photo attached to it, taken that morning outside our house. They were planning to kill me. I took the laptop, drove home, mind spinning. Elena wasn't there yet. I hid it with the gun, poured a drink, waited. When she walked in, she froze, seeing me on the couch, glass in hand. "You're up late," she said, cautious. I smiled, stood, stepped close. "Couldn't sleep without you." Her laugh was nervous, but she kissed me, soft, testing. I kissed her back, harder, pinning her against the wall. She gasped, clung to me, and we stumbled to the bedroom. It was feral, unhinged, her body arching under mine like she was daring me to see through her. After, she slept, and I lay there, staring at her, the woman I loved, the woman who might bury me. The next day, I called Ray. "I'm in deep," I said. "She's not just cheating. She's running something. And I'm the loose end." He didn't sugarcoat it. "You've got two moves, confront her or disappear. Either way, you're a dead man if they find out you know." I hung up, looked at the gun under the floorboards. Then at her, in the kitchen, humming as she made coffee. My wife. My enemy. My everything. And then the doorbell rang. The doorbell cut through the morning like a gunshot. Elena froze, coffee pot in hand, her eyes darting to me. "Who's that?" she asked, voice too casual. I shrugged, heart slamming against my ribs, and walked to the door. Through the peephole, a guy in a cheap suit, mid-40s, balding, holding a clipboard. Looked harmless. I opened it, kept my body in the frame. "Yeah. Delivery for Elena Grayson," he said, glancing at his clipboard. "Needs a signature." I didn't move. She stepped up behind me, all smiles, brushing past like nothing was wrong. "That's me." She signed, took the small package, brown, unmarked, and the guy left without a word. I watched her carry it to the kitchen, her fingers trembling just enough to notice. "What's that?" I asked, leaning against the counter. She didn't look up. "Work stuff. Boring." But her voice cracked. I let it go. For now. She left for the office. An hour later, that red dress swapped for a pencil skirt and blouse, her heels clicking out the door. I didn't follow her. I tore into the package instead. Inside, a burner phone, no note, no labels. Powered it on. One contact. Marcus? I texted, "Got it. Next step." Held my breath. The reply came fast. "Meet tonight. Usual spot. Bring him." Bring me? My skin crawled. She wasn't just playing me. She was delivering me. I grabbed the laptop from under the floorboards, dug deeper. The emails were a maze, cryptic, layered, but I cracked one attachment. A blueprint. Our house. Marked spots, windows, doors, my office. And a date, tomorrow. Whatever extraction meant, it was happening soon. I called Ray, voice low. "They're moving on me. Tomorrow." He cursed. "Get out now? I'll dig more, but you're a ghost if you stay." I hung up, stared at the gun. Disappear? Or fight? That night, Elena came home wired. Eyes bright, movements sharp. She poured wine, handed me a glass, her fingers brushing mine too long. "Rough day?" I asked, sipping. She nodded, sat close, her thigh pressed against mine. "You have no idea." Her hand slid up my leg, slow, deliberate. I grabbed it, pulled her onto my lap. She laughed, surprised, then kissed me, deep, hungry. It was a dance now, both of us pretending, her nails raking my back as we hit the couch. Clothes peeled off, her skin hot against mine, every move laced with something unspoken. Was she saying goodbye? Or testing me? After, she lay there, breathless, tracing circles on my chest. "I love you," she whispered. First time she'd said it in weeks. I almost believed her. Midnight, she slipped out of bed. I pretended to sleep, watched through slitted eyes as she grabbed the burner phone from her purse, typed fast. Then she dressed, black jeans, boots, no sound, and left. I followed, gun tucked in my waistband, the laptop in a bag. She drove to a warehouse district, parked near a rusted building. Marcus was there, leaning against his car, but he wasn't alone. Two others, big guys, armed, faces hard. And then the balding delivery guy from earlier stepped out of the shadows. No clipboard this time, just a smirk. I stayed low, listened. "He's clueless," Elena said, voice steady. "Tomorrow's clean. In and out." Marcus nodded. "Good. Once he's gone, we're free." The delivery guy, clearly the boss, cut in. "No loose ends. You sure he hasn't sniffed anything?" Elena hesitated. He's too busy screwing me to notice. They laughed. I gripped the gun, rage boiling, but held back. Then Marcus grabbed her, kissed her hard, her body melting into his. My vision blurred. She wasn't just betraying me. She was enjoying it. I tailed them after. They split. Marcus and the goons one way, Elena and the boss another. I followed her. They hit a motel, cheap neon buzzing outside. She went in alone. He waited in the car. I broke in through the back window, found her pacing, the duffel bag open on the bed. Cash again, a passport, her face, new name. She turned, saw me, gasped. What the hell are you doing here? No fear, just anger. I stepped closer, gun out now. Who's the mark? Elena? Me? Or them? Her eyes flicked to the weapon, then me. You don't understand. Then explain it, I snarled, voice shaking. She laughed, cold, bitter. You think this is about Marcus? About sex? You're so small, baby. She stepped closer, fearless, her hand brushing the gun barrel. Put it down. Let me show you. Against every instinct, I did. She pulled me to the bed, straddled me, her lips on mine, urgent, electric. I'm saving us, she whispered, unbuttoning my shirt. Trust me. And like an idiot, I wanted to. Then the door burst open. Marcus, gun raised, eyes wild. You lying bitch, he roared. Elena spun, grabbed her own pistol from the bag faster than I'd ever seen her move. Shots rang out. Marcus dropped, blood pooling. I lunged for my gun, but she turned hers on me. Don't, she said, pinning. This isn't what you think. The boss stormed in, saw Marcus, cursed. Planned shot. We go now. Elena nodded, grabbed the bag. He comes too, she said, pointing at me. He knows too much. They dragged me to the car, her driving, the boss in the back with a gun to my head. What's the play? I demanded. Elena didn't look at me. You'll see. We hit a private airstrip, a plane waiting. She finally met my eyes, hers unreadable. I never wanted this, she said, soft, before shoving me aboard. The engines roared, and I realized I wasn't the target. I was the bait. The plane was small, a private jet with leather seats and a hum that vibrated through my bones. Elena sat across from me, legs crossed, her gun resting on her thigh like it was an accessory. The boss, balding, smug, now calling himself Victor, lounged beside her, his pistol trained on me. My hands were zip-tied behind my back, the plastic biting into my wrists. The engine screamed as we took off, and I stared at her, searching for the woman I'd married. She wouldn't meet my eyes. Where are we going? I asked, voice hoarse. Victor smirked. Somewhere warm. You'll like it, till you don't. Elena shot him a look, sharp, but said nothing. The air was thick with tension, her fingers tapping the gun barrel. I tested the ties tight, no give. What's the endgame, Elena? You sell me out, ride off with him. She finally looked at me, her face a mask. You still don't get it, do you? Victor laughed, low and ugly. He's slow. Told you. The flight was short 2 hours, maybe less. We landed on a strip carved out of jungle, the heat slamming me as they shoved me out. A black SUV waited, and they threw me in the back. Elena drove, Victor beside her, his gun now casual, like he didn't think I'd try anything. I didn't. Not yet. The road twisted through dense green, ending at a villa, white stone, glass walls, obscene wealth dripping from every corner. Armed men patrolled the perimeter. This wasn't a hideout. This was a fortress. Inside, they cut the ties, pushed me into a chair. Elena stood by a window, staring out, while Victor poured a drink. Here's the deal, he said, swirling the amber liquid. Your leverage. She delivers. You live. She doesn't. He mimmed a throat slit, grinning. I glared at her. Deliver what? She turned, slow, her eyes dark. The money. All of it. Victor nodded. Your wife's been skimming. Smart girl, till she got greedy. My head spun. Skimming? From who? Then it hit me, the bank statements, the cash, the offshore accounts. You're not just cheating, I said, voice rising. You're a thief. She stepped closer, her perfume wrapping around me like a noose. I was building something. For us. Victor snorted. For you, maybe. Till Marcus got clingy and you got sloppy. Her jaw tightened, but she didn't argue. They locked me in a room, plush, a mockery of comfort, windows barred, door bolted. Hours passed. I paced, mind racing. She'd played me, played Marcus, played Victor. But why keep me alive? Night fell, and the door opened. Elena, alone, no gun. She locked it behind her, crossed to me fast. We're out of time, she whispered, her hands on my chest. They'll kill you tomorrow unless I fix this. I grabbed her shoulders. Fix what? What are you running from? Her lips crashed into mine, desperate, tasting of wine and fear. Everything, she breathed, pulling me to the bed. It was frantic, clothes tearing, her skin fever-hot against mine. No words, just need, hers, mine, twisted together. After, she clung to me, trembling. I never wanted him, she said, voice breaking. Marcus was a means. Victor's the monster. I held her, torn between love and rage. Then why drag me in? She pulled back, eyes wet. Because you're the only thing they can't take. A gunshot cracked outside. She bolted up, grabbed a knife from her boot. Small, deadly. Stay here, she hissed, slipping out. I didn't. I followed, silent, through the hall. Chaos, a guard shouting more shots. Victor stormed in, blood on his shirt, dragging Elena by the arm. Your boyfriend's friends found us, he snarled. Marcus's crew? I ducked behind a wall as Victor shoved her forward. Fix it, or he's first. He jerked his head toward me, spotted. I ran, out a side door, into the jungle, heart pounding. Voices behind me, crashing through brush. Then her screaming my name. I stopped, turned. She broke through, knife in hand, blood streaking her face. They're dead, she panted. Victor's down. We can go. I stared, disbelieving. You killed him. She nodded, fierce. For us. We ran hours, maybe, till we hit a village. Stole a truck, drove till dawn. She explained, haltingly. She'd worked for Victor's cartel, laundering money, skimming to break free. Marcus was her muscle, then her lover, then her liability. I was her anchor, her reason, she swore. I faked it all, she said, gripping my hand. The photos, the plans to keep you safe. I wanted to believe her. God, I did. We holed up in a shack, exhausted. She curled against me, asleep, peaceful. I watched her, the gun from the storage unit in my lap, found it in the duffel she'd grabbed. My wife. My savior. My liar. Morning came, and I made my choice. I slipped out, left her there, the gun beside her. Took the truck, the cash, drove till the road ended. Called Ray from a payphone. She's alive. I'm done. A month later, I'm in a new city, new name, her face haunting me. Then a letter, no return address. Her handwriting. You were never the mark. I was. Come back. A photo slipped out, her, smiling, a beach behind her. And a man. Not Marcus. Not Victor. Me, edited in, like I'd been there all along. I burned it. But that night, in bed, her scent lingered, and I wondered, was she the twist I'd never see coming?